Industry, a podcast, of course, presented by the Emporium Live, where we try our best and damnedest to bridge the gap between venues, bands, and fans. One of the ways we do this is by collaborating with artists and industry professionals and talking to them about the scene around them and how they work within it. And don't forget, our floor is open for real-time questions right now while the show is going on. And if you can't get to us right now and you hear the show later on, just hit us up on the forum at the emporium.com/forum and ask us there. We'll get back to everyone we can as fast as possible. And tonight, I'm very pleased and happy, super happy to be hanging out with Denis Hiller, one of the mental forces behind NoFace Records, helping to bring back old school genres of every kind of digital music back to present state of mind. And one of the ways they're doing this is by dominating the platform and letting everyone who has a voice and a key to signal out sound for all of us to enjoy. Right now, he literally is one of my heroes. Denis, how are you doing, man?
Wally, I'm good. Thanks for having me. I think you summed it up. We're here to elevate the next generation of electronic music artists. If everybody else out there wants to be cool, we want to be warm and inviting.
For sure. And that's the best way of you retorting to my statement there. And we're gonna jump down. I've got my questions all in one order, but we're gonna throw that out the window. We're gonna jump straight to this one. You guys have a very, very open door for demos from any kind of artist, signed artist, non-known artist, people who are trying to make it in any such way or form. You guys are so welcoming. And even like I've read your segments on your web pages and stuff about how you want people to just send these demos, and or how I think, what is it, last year you guys went to Amsterdam for a thing, and you guys were super stoked to just meet people to get their hard drives and or people to do so, whereas other people can't. Like, they get scared of it.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is sort of we're a team of eight. We have a, as you know, a big community of producers, artists, and listeners, but we're a team of eight distributed around the world. And for my co-founder Max Vangeli, who's a DJ, producer, etc., and myself, there's kind of a second act, and we really wanted to reinvent our corner of the music industry, and we just looked at everything we didn't like and said, well, let's try to change it. Like while you bring up demos, okay, so typically, not everybody, but a lot of labels, both major and minor, simply don't accept unsolicited demos. I mean, I personally think that's bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, why not? Why would you just rely on some sort of old school boys network? And then on top of it, so we started simply by accepting demos, and a lot of people are surprised by that. And then the community started saying, well, why can't you reply to demos? Because we said we're too busy, we can't do it. And then they kind of called us out on our own BS, and we thought about it, and we're like, you're right. We really could, and you deserve that. So now when you send a demo to demos@nofacerecords.com, you get a reply within 2 weeks. And our A&R team, a team of three, works really hard. They're listening to 50 to 200 demos a day for one simple reason, because we're putting out energy on the socials in the universe saying, listen, we don't care. We judge music for its own sake. If you have 1 million followers, good for you. If you are living with your grandmother and you are broke, that is totally fine, because we are just simply interested in breaking new talent.
Nice. Jeez, I really enjoy the way you said that, because I've been on both spectrums, and I know plenty of our listeners have either been on both spectrums or on one or the other right now, and some of them are probably just trying to figure out which one they are on. So for you to say that, again, the open door is amazing. And I've probably spent the last, to be honest, 12 hours sitting in my office. I've got 3 computer screens in front of me, and one of them has been running your YouTube channel like crazy. And some of those artists I've played over and over. Some of them I've just been finding through just letting it play its own thing. I need to ask, a lot of the music you guys have is great, and a lot of it I literally will hear and I'll stop and think to myself, oh my God, this is 1998 two-step like getting down type stuff. Some of it I'm hearing, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is pure Chicago breaks. And other stuff is like boom, boom, boom. It keeps building up how it is. What is the actual thing you guys are looking for? Because I would like to know, is the door still open also? Because I think some people coming towards you will see how open you are for demos, but might hear some of the stuff you guys are doing and be afraid of like, oh, they're not gonna like what I do, because maybe some people are doing breakcore,
Yeah.
old school jungle drum and bass. Some people are doing like actual ambient experimental. Are you still open to those things?
That's a great question, and here's the deal. So we simply, a lot of people ask, what do you accept? We accept electronic music, and they say, well, what kind? Do you accept future bass, blah blah blah,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
The answer is yes. The answer is yes, because at the end of the day, our only job is to take all the music we're receiving and sign a piece of it, and then the rest of it, is the rest of it. But the point is, we are open to whatever comes through the door or through the email. So we've signed hard style, we've signed
Oh
old
yeah.
school sounding stuff, we've sound like, for example, we just let people know that on our Discord, and we have a great Discord, that
Mm-hmm.
we have a Spanish language section. So if
Yes,
you
I was
speak,
so happy to see that. I was so happy to see that.
thank you. And somebody asked, hey, if a track has Spanish lyrics, will you consider it? Yeah, of course. If it's electronic
Yeah,
music,
why not?
what
Like, oh,
it
that.
could be
But it's
Mandarin,
great
it
that
could be
people
whatever.
ask you and you retort back immediately.
100%. So to answer your question, we are open to what we feel will appeal to our listeners, but we keep a very open mind. It could be house, it could be trance, it could be experimental, it could be ambient. I mean, at the end of the day, this is going out there and people are listening to it, streaming to it, partying to it. So we're very aware of all the different, use cases for music,
Yeah, yeah.
gaming.
Um, so before I actually got onto this interview, I had a few of my friends that I started sending your label to. I'm like, oh my gosh, you listen to this. And some of them knew a few of your artists. And I think a couple of them aren't actually signed to your label anymore. I think it was a track thing, and they're on something else now, or vice. I don't know for sure.
Well, let me
Um,
tell you about that. Actually, that's
yeah,
a really really interesting point. So another thing that we don't do is we don't sign long term deals. Okay,
UK,
we
yeah, and
sign
that's
what's called.
amazing. That's
Yep.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's an old school thing. Like back in the day, in the early '90s to the mid '90s, it was like you could get a track signed to this label, and then you're on your own after like a month or two of that track being released, and you have to keep jumping around or stay on that label for a few more. And that was fun. That was great. It kept the genre of everything growing.
Mhm.
And I'm so happy to see you guys bringing that back in a hard way, in the best way.
Thank you. And that is what we're trying to do, because at the end of the day, well, it's a few things. First of all, we come into this with experience with all sorts of other labels and parts of the music industry. And second of all, I mean, we don't, the reason why you see our artists signed to spin into all sorts of other places is because that's by design. In other words,
Yeah,
other labels, and we appreciate that, pay attention to what we do. And literally, there are so many cases of we sign a track, and then, like I said, we sign by the single. There's no options, there's no multi-year deal. That doesn't exist. It's just thank you, see you later. If you want to keep working, it's simply because
yeah,
we enjoy
yeah.
and there's many cases where an artist will go with us, then go somewhere else, then come back, and we really appreciate that. So, but anyways, the point of it is we're trying to break new artists. Now, have we signed bigger artists? Sure, we have tracks by Laid Back Luke and all sorts of people, but our sweet spot, the thing we enjoy, is exposing the electronic world to new people, because we feel that it's really unfair to just simply regurgitate the same people over and over and over again and create some sort of boys club.
Absolutely. And thank you for putting it that way. That is such a solid statement. And also, I think something that a lot of people need to hear, be it from the producer side, artist side, the painter side, the dancer side, the management side. I think you guys are on the level of pure and active EDM. Like people who like to say EDM, sometimes I get annoyed with it. It's like, oh, so EDM, you just mean you listen to all electronic music, and then I can be a jerk and put out all the genres and subgenres and blah blah blah. But what it really is, is a collective, a unit, and a family who need to keep pushing forward together. There's no reason to be wrong against each other. And some of those labels out there are like, well, we only do jungle or we only do hard house. You guys have literally found a really nice niche on how to provoke and help everybody on all of it. You're giving everyone a platform. I love it. It's great. I'll say it maybe the first time during the live interview. I said it to you earlier. I've been listening to your whole catalog for the last 18 hours straight, and I have found something that I think everyone can love. I think that there are certain artists out there that might get scared of coming to you for the demo stuff because they'll hear what you got going on already, but they shouldn't be. I think you guys are open to everything, and that's the best part.
I mean, at the end of the day, music evolves, and then certain genres leave and come back, and etc. So, if you're not open to change, and you're talking about the past of labels, right? Some of the best music in the world, like some of this classic rock, that kind of thing, it was signed by like cigar smoking label execs who didn't know any better, and they're like, "Yeah, sure, let's give it a shot."
Yeah. And they didn't actually listen and or enjoy any of it. Oh man. So tell me about your quote. As a music producer, you must not have shame. Tell me about how you actually feel about that, either when you first said it and how you are now, or how you still feel about it fully.
I mean, you have to be shameless. Like in other words, I know we're sort of, societal creatures and we all need to care, etc. But at the end of the day, you need to have a certain element of shamelessness, playfulness, everything else. You need to be willing to shake things up. Like, I came into the music industry 10 years ago from tech, and tech was very serious, very corporate and everything. And I came into it think and I'm sure it rubbed people the wrong way, but the group of people that I came into it with, we just came in like we owned the place. But I feel like you need a little bit of that, and you should have confidence, and you shouldn't feel like, oh, there's these people and they do things this way and they dress this way and they're going to judge me or whatever. I just think you need to do your own thing, and for different people that's different. I know that sounds a little vague, but I'm a massive advocate for, if you have a dream and you have a goal, just like be shameless about it and chase it. Don't let like people turn you timid, or just be yourself. Like, be that person who dances in front of the mirror. You know what I mean?
Yes. Thank God. Dude, exactly. Anytime you hear something that makes you happy, get down with your God or goddess self, regardless of what anyone thinks about you. That's the way to be, for sure. For sure. That's what's up.
Like even when I look at my label team, like it's a very different group of people, and I really appreciate that about them. And we have our differences and similarities and everything, but like, and when you look at personalities, right? Like, you could be an introvert and you could say, well, I'm an introvert, I don't know if I can do this. But let's be honest, there's two types of performers. There are some people who are always on, as a DJ, as a rock stars, whatever they are. And then at the same time, I've seen people who are like, they're off, and you wouldn't even notice them in a room full of people, and then it's time for them to perform and it's like, whoa, who's this person? And then they're done and they're like, oh, hey, that kind of thing. So
Absolutely. I'm so happy that you witnessed that and see all that, and it just makes me super happy, especially like I said, the last 18 hours researching you and your label and all that. I'm super happy about this stuff you're saying. You're saying exactly what I want you to say, and I hope that everyone who's hearing this, who checks into you, realizes that you guys are truly all about the actual upbringing of pure sound and getting it all back to basics. And by saying basics, I mean normality, in a way that we had in the 90s and the early 2000s, that wasn't just adverts, like getting back to like how the sound should be, how it should be spread, being cool and coy with everyone, for just being happy with each other.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm getting it a little. You just make me so happy. But I do need to ask. So I was doing some research, and I came across a lot of like texts and posts and other things that were kept calling you like a a tech guy, the tech genius,
Yeah.
and doing all this other stuff. And I know that you were on the oh gosh, I had to do a hard restart before we started the interview, so I lost some of my tabs. But the Nomadic Mom podcast,
Uh-huh.
that rings a bell. And I couldn't have I didn't have a chance to listen to any of that. I was trying to, but yeah. So you own a record label right now. You're one of the biggest managers of it. I think you and your friend Max is your
Yes.
partner. Uh, why do I keep seeing stuff about you being the tech guy? What does that mean?
Well, look here. I have a lot of different. First of all, I didn't go to college, so I had 4 extra years in life to do all sorts of things. And I grew after immigrating to the U.S. from Ukraine, and I came as a kid. So I grew up in the Silicon Valley, but I didn't realize it was the Silicon Valley, if that makes sense. Like I
Oh
went
yeah,
to school
absolutely.
with like, one of the founders of Apple's kids, and you'd see like the guy who invented the mouse in a cafe. This meant nothing to me. I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
assumed this is how
that's
it
so
was,
amazing. That's great that they were just regular ass cats to you.
Yeah, they were right. I didn't know. I just assumed that's. I mean, you're just a kid playing, doing your thing, and I just kind of assumed that's how the world was. And then, anyways, so earlier in life, I wasn't really an education guy, and didn't do well in school. So I ended up not going to college. And my immigrant parents said, "Well, if you're not going to college, you're going to be a bagger at a grocery store." And for
Oh
immigrant parents, that's like
no.
the worst thing you can be. I was like,
Yeah.
no, I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm not going to be a bagger, even though it's a perfectly respectable profession and somebody needs to bag the groceries. So, to make a long story short, I ended up working in the. I ended up, two friends of mine started a company called Anchor Free. And we were, after a long series of trying to figure out what we ended up being one of the first VPNs in the world. For anybody who doesn't know what a
Oh
VPN is,
wow.
like changing your IP, all that.
Yes.
Anyways, and so I was part of the founding team there. We got basically funding, all this stuff, all this. It was I learned sort of PR and marketing from scratch because I felt like they were doing some really interesting things. And I won't get into the long story too much, but basically, so I did that for a few years, and that was my life. And just helped take that company from 0 to 60, and then left, and they ended up doing some pretty incredible things. And they were acquired a few years ago. And then I started another company called ULoop, which was in the college space with a different group of people. And then at some point, what ended up happening was, I got disillusioned with tech. I don't mean with marketing, with technology, or any of that, but I felt like, look, tech is a tool. Tech is not the end all and be all. But oftentimes, when you're in tech circles, they sort of worship it. And I wanted to go out there, travel, see things, listen to music, go to Hollywood, all of it. I had all these other dreams. And so I ended up sort of pivoting into the music industry, first on a local level, and then through a series of, just working hard and things turning out the right way on different levels. And that's why you'll see tech reference to me, is because that's where I got my start. And then, I came to the music industry and never really looked back. But I will tell you, Wally, that one of my dreams is like, out I one day I would love to I don't know if it would be like a fund or angel investing or something, but I'd love to really focus on music tech. I'd love for No Face to focus on music tech and to invest in it, to support people who are creating sort of the next wave of tech for
Yeah,
music. Anyways,
start being
that's my
some of those guys
background.
that make like little VSTs or like like patches for like other like things that people are working on like digitally, like how
VSTs,
to do stuff.
patches, the next
Yeah.
Spotify, whatever it is, all that stuff. But
Yeah.
but the ever since then, I've very much been in the music space. Or I worked with Max, then I worked at Size Records with Steve Angelo, which was a
What
pretty
did you do
amazing
there? What
experience.
did you do there?
I ran marketing. So I worked out of so it was like a job within the job, and it was so incredible. So And I'll for anybody who's interested in getting a job in the music industry, I'll tell you a quick story. So here's how I got this job. So 2010 to 2012, I was on planes traveling with artists, drinking, in, discovering the world. And in 2012, I was like, you know what? I want to do something sort of corporate again. LA is where the music industry is. Half of my emails are to people in LA, and I had nothing waiting for me. I should mention, but I was like, you know what? I'm going down. And so I went down to LA, and every meeting I had, no matter how small it was, I was like, I got an apartment in West Hollywood, and I was like, I'll be right there. It could be in Santa Monica, it could be in East LA, it could be in Burbank, wherever it was. I was like, yeah, I'll be there in a few minutes. And they're like, and they would say, no, no, it's a quick call. Let's just blah, blah, blah. I'd say, no, no, I'll be right there. And so I met with all these people who I previously only knew over email and met their friends and really spent a lot of time networking. And something opened up at Size Records, Steve Angelo's imprint. And basically, they needed a marketing person. And so I ended up, and I was working out of Red Light Management, which is the biggest independent management company in the world. And they were managing Steve at the time. So I ended up in this position where I was doing marketing for Steve, running marketing for Steve for Size Records, and then for the artists that Steve managed, which was 6 artists, which was incredible. And then on top of that, I was on the Sunset Strip. I felt like I was, driving like on a movie set every day because you're on the, Sunset Strip. And I was working with like, down the hall, you'd have Lionel Richie's manager and this person, that person. I thought, damn, I'm in such a great position, and I knew that people would kill to have that job. So what I did every day is I would hang out in the break room an hour or two every day, and anybody who would walk in, I just like sort of shoot the shit with them because I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
I would never in a million years meet with these people, and got to know the indie scene, the rock, this hip hop, and it was incredible.
That's great. That's an amazing story, and also it kind of goes to some of the other people I've interviewed are always like, some of them are very much about like at the right time, the right moment. Like you just have to grab it, you have to go for it, and it's good to hear that. And some of the people I've interviewed, they've all said very positive things, but you next to a few people have not just taken that for yourself but molded it into how to do it for others. And that is such the probably the biggest positive thing I've heard in a long time, and I've witnessed now by researching you and listening to your label. So much goodness, man, so much goodness. uh Again, I'm going to say thank you. Right now you're my hero a little bit.
Wally, thank
And
you. I'll
also,
I'll tell you. Yeah, no, go ahead.
go no go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was going to tell you, it's been a bit of a journey because the thing is that, so here's how I got to this point where we have this imprint that's focused on breaking new artists, elevating the next generation new artists, educating them on music production and music business. Because also, I do want to mention, here's why we do that.
Hmm.
When you send a demo to us or any other label, that is the end of a creative process. The beginning of the creative process is what you're doing in the studio, okay, whether it's electronic music or any form of music. And so we thought, well, let's get ahead of it, meet you in the studio. Let's teach you music production, music
Yeah,
theory,
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. So
business of
that was
music,
one of
all
my
that
next
stuff,
questions
you
for
know?
sure. And that
So,
that that is
so
that's No
that's
Face
kind of that.
Academy, right?
No Face, it's No Face Academy, which is
Yeah.
our school, and then also it's all the content that we're putting out there for free on our gram,
Hmm.
other places, etc., blogging. Um, but that's really that, and the academy, where the academy came from, is really simple. So as I mentioned, we're getting 250 to 200 demos a day,
Yeah.
and we're signing 3 tracks a week. Maybe we'll move to 5 at some point. Bottom line is we get the I want to actually make a post about this, but there's our A&R process goes 3 steps. So you send it, we listen, and then you get a response, and the response is either yes, no, or maybe. And the maybe is where the academy came from, because yes is okay, this perfectly fits with what we're looking for, it's properly mixed and mastered, it really fits whatever
Yeah, yeah,
criteria
yeah.
our A&R is looking for. The maybe and a hard no means, look, this just isn't, the quality isn't there, you really need to get back and work on this, or
Find
this isn't
yourself
for us.
again and come back later.
Yes. Maybe is, listen, this is good. Maybe the mixing mastering wasn't there. Maybe you have an interesting idea, but not all the elements are there. But it's a maybe. And then we say, look, if you want to keep working on your own, if you don't, join the No Face Academy.
Yeah, yeah.
It will not break the bank. It's $9.99 a month. And
And
then
what
we
you're
have
saying
also,
there is you're actually, if people want to just join on their own accord, that's fine. But if they send you a demo and you say, maybe if you do this and that, but we can help you out a little
yes.
bit. Boom, here's this, because we would love to see what you could produce to or grow to. That's the thing for them.
Exactly. And we've ended up helping them get records placed not just with us, but and we don't offer any guarantees, but at the
Yeah, yeah,
same time, like we've helped get them records placed at other labels, as well as ours. And that's really that, and that's where that came from. But like, if I were to sum up but back to your point, Wally, like, this is just what we love. We just felt like nobody was doing this, nobody was giving the new guys a shot, and we want to
yeah.
be those people.
Yeah, and again, I'm glad you ended it right there, because I will say again, there's been so much of my life dedicated to digital music, underground DJ music. Before it was actually a profound thing. Before the
Right.
big names and the big labels, and it seemed to be like there was always, you would sign for a single, you would sign for like an EP, and then move on to your next spot. Like it was always jumping stepping stones. And then I feel like a lot of after 2010, not gonna lie, after 2010, it kind of got to where if you weren't signed to a big label, if you didn't already have a big name, if you weren't just crunching out big bangers, you were nothing. And that drove us down for a while in the whole
It
spectrum.
did.
And there were some of us who were still listening to dark techno. There are still some of us who really enjoy Chicago house, and there's still some of us who enjoy basic bass weight and two-step music. And you guys are bringing it back in a very voluptuous, pure, happy mode. And I appreciate you again for that. And with that said, I need to ask you another personal question, man. At
Yes.
what point, as a listener, as a punter, as a buyer, did you stop and think to yourself, holy moly, I need to be a pusher, a provocator, and someone who could make this happen for other people? Like, at what point did you say, snap, this has to happen for other people?
Okay, I'll tell you how it happened. So I was in LA until 2014, working in among the greats, okay, in the pinnacle of the entertainment industry. And
Yeah,
at some point, something just snapped, because I was working like 18-hour days, and the whole thing. And at some point I just thought, there's more to life than this. And so I went on a journey, like a proper journey. So I that journey took me to Sweden. I spent a year living in Sweden, the Philippines, and I was still doing some music industry stuff, but it was much more about travel, learning cultures, languages. It took me to Mexico City, and learning Spanish here in the Dominican Republic, where we have a presence now in Miami and all these other places. And so and by the time all of that ended, and meeting all of these other people from around the world, learn and cultures and everything, it was sort of that. And then achieving certain life goals with my business partner, because we started also investing in real estate. Okay, I don't mean like driving Ferraris, investing in real estate or anything. I don't want to make that sound like that's the
yeah, no
case. Not at all.
misconstrued here. Like, this is,
No,
yeah,
right in the garage. So, but we would buy little properties, like 50K for this one, something for this one for Airbnb, and just over the years. And then at some point, we got to the point where we could stop and not work. Okay, like in other words, the rent would be paid, the food would be paid, maybe there'd be a little money left over, etc. And at that point, we thought, damn, okay, now you can either go live on the beach somewhere, or you can do something that's a little more long term and has purpose to it. And that's where the idea was born, to elevate the next generation of electronic artists, because we knew it would be a long climb to do it. And we thought, okay, we're ready for this, let's do this, let's see how far down the rabbit hole we can go.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'll tell you this. So as far as like what you were talking about, Wally, about like, there was this point where you had to be signed to a certain label and this and that. And it's still, these things, they're still not everybody, but some people are still trying to run things. Like, for example, we have an artist, I'm not going to mention who, but who signed to our label, well, signed a couple of records, and then this other label in Europe approached him and said, hey, we want to sign you to a 5-year deal. And it wasn't a very good deal, literally just off us. They heard it and said, okay, great, we'll sign you to a 5-year deal, thanks, adios. And he didn't sign. But and there's nothing wrong with that if they offer you
yeah,
like a
yeah,
really sweet deal, but this was a really crappy deal. And so it's still happening. And my next goal for our label, if now we are one of those labels that other labels pay attention to, and that's great, and then you sort of trickle up as you go. I want to My next goal over the next year or so is to grow our own personal distribution to the point where we don't just expose you to the industry, but where you say, okay, these guys have such serious numbers and distribution and everything that they can literally like make your career, and they want nothing in return.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's exactly what it was. Late '80s, mid '90s to the late '90s, people just jumping game back and forth, and some of those labels were super happy to share their artists with other labels to keep it all going. What happened? Where was the fall? Where did the bridge break, and why did it break? And why are you guys building it back up?
I think, I mean, look, I got into the all of this in 08 and really learned the music business probably in 2012,
Okay,
just
yeah.
sort of
So
by
yeah,
trial and error.
there's a whole spectrum of that you're fixing that you didn't even know about it. You know what I mean? And that's
I'll
what
put it
you're
to,
doing
but
is what it
it
used to be for a lot of
you know
people.
what
And
it could, so
go ahead, go ahead.
you know what it could have been, and it might have been, I don't know, but it might have been one of two things, or maybe they're even connected. One is all the money that was poured into the electronic business, where it came from, where it was initially raves and very, very underground, to
Yeah, yeah.
there's all this money from Wall Street and
And now they all want adverts and they want to use that fucking that same beat over and over. Like, oh, put it in our
yes,
commercials, and they're
and the
now
major
cash room.
labels putting in, I don't know, at some point, like, people turned it into some sort of formula, and then
Yeah, yeah,
they started handcuffing people. I don't know what it was, but I never, it's funny that you bring it up, because I honestly, I don't think we ever thought about it that way. But you're right that there was this big shift that happened, and it did kind of kill a lot of creativity. And there was all this other music out there, not that there's, I love house music and all
yeah,
this, but there was like drum and bass, there were all these other things going on that kind of, sort of lost out in
yeah.
whatever
Well, I
happened
mean,
there.
I would say honestly, if we can keep talking on the subject, I would say from 1997 until maybe 2001, the whole commercial industry plateaued on using the all man brake. The all man brake was in every single car commercial, every single background sound of like your local commercial grocery store, and then it got filtered to where it was just so reiterated to the point, and that's why everyone fell into bass music, and house became another big thing again. People, it was getting more exciting and all that stuff. We're like, yeah, drum and bass is good, but I hear it all the time in my personal life, subconsciously or consciously. And then when bass music first started getting around and first started making like old school house and wet funk and electro getting big again from like 2008 to like 2012, we had a massive uproar of like pure original sounds happening again. And then boom, 2014,
The
dubstep
festivals. I'm sorry to
yes,
interrupt you. The
the festivals
festivals.
got way bigger in 2014. You are
Yes.
right. You are
You know,
right.
you
That
know
was a
what it
massive
was, and
uproar.
hopefully Corona, with all the bad stuff that came with it, hopefully the good thing is it'll bring a lot of that underground because,
Hmm. Bring it
damn,
back
you're
home.
so
Bring it
right.
back home.
Yeah, bring it back to the club, to the
For
warehouse,
sure,
because
man.
I mean, you're so right. When you're and festivals are a blast, having been to a few. But at the same time, it's true that there is a massive difference between a big room banger, which will work for 30,000 people
Yeah.
in the woods of the Czech Republic or something, versus like a nice, warehousey sort of
Hmm.
a vibe or a pool party. These are very different things.
Yeah. And again, with your label, I let your whole YouTube discography, I went through your whole SoundCloud discography, and there was never nay a track that doubled up on itself or made you seem repetitive. You guys have a great ear. Whatever
Thank
you
you.
and your team are doing, you got a great ear. And
I give
hopefully,
all credit to our A&R team, Max Vangeli, and
yes,
we
yeah.
have a
He,
gentleman,
I actually,
Pierre.
you know what? It's funny is I avoided anything he was a part of and all of
Uh-huh.
his, like his personal music. Not because I was not caring, because I was focused on you,
Right.
and focusing on the industry at hand. But probably about an hour before we got into this, I started listening to some of his music, and boy, I would love to talk to that man.
That can be arranged, and yeah, I honestly, I give all credit to them, and I try to, as much as possible, stay out of the A&R and let them do it because they love it, because they do A&R in a different way. Like I
Mhm.
would do A&R the way Interscope does it. I'd look at the numbers, the charts, the graphs, all
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
But the better way, the more authentic way to do A&R, I think, is when you're listening to it as a DJ who's played all over the world, and you're like, yeah, that one,
I get you for sure. So, all right. Let's let me ask you a question that let's try to pull you back to those beginning days. I know we've kind of touched on all of it all around, but let's get to like the actual how to give me some tips, how to give our
Mhm.
listeners some tips, I should say, on setting up a label and then
Yes.
becoming a manager of a wide array of artists. Like, so you set up a label, then you become a manager, and now all of a sudden you have a wide array of artists to manage. Like, what were those steps? Like, how did you get over those hurdles, jump through those hoops, and miss those speed bumps? Like, how?
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, let me back up. So the way we set up this label and the way you would set up a label from scratch are a little
Mm-hmm.
bit different, because we got approached by Armada out of the Netherlands, and it
All right,
was
yeah,
like,
I
hey,
was gonna ask you because
yeah,
you guys first got started with Armada, and then now you've separated. Now, was that
yes.
a buyout? Was that an easygoing separation, or did you take what happened there?
We had beefs. We went on the breakfast. No, it wasn't like that. Can you imagine? No.
All right, all right.
So no. So here's what happened. We wanted to do a label for a while, but we were absolutely clueless because most people don't know how to set up a label or what a
Yeah,
label is.
no, absolutely.
And you know what? Honestly, I think that's why we're so obsessed with sort of telling the story and being out there, is because
Yeah.
I feel like when you watch a movie and you see Columbia Pictures, you don't know what that, you're like, I don't know what this is. There's some horse and I don't know what they do, right? Like you don't know. And
Yeah, 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 yeah. I get you. I get you.
yeah, and we didn't want to be that. We wanted to show you what a label is. So, bottom line is, let's get to the Armada and all that. We'll get to it. But bottom
Yeah.
line is, if you are starting a label, if you want to start a label, I'm going to give you like 3 or 4 tips. First of all, commit to it. Okay, commit to it. What I mean by that is, this isn't some side project thing that you occasionally think about. You can do it that way, but I promise you it won't be successful. Okay, you have to treat it like an artist. Okay, you have to treat it like a brand, like whatever you want to call it. It has its own personality, soul, audience, movement. You're building a movement. That's what you're trying to do. And so you need to commit to, I say 2 years, Max says 5 years. We'll split it down the middle and give it 3.5. Bottom line is you need to put in the time. Otherwise, it won't work. Like if it's hard to build up an artist, it's that much harder to build up a label. Okay.
Oh,
So
oh,
put in the time, A, and B, then there's very basic things. Okay. So we can all argue about what a label is. Like, for example, Red Bull Records is a label. Is that a label or is that a marketing department of Red Bull
okay,
putting
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
millions?
yeah, yeah,
Who
for sure,
knows?
for
You
sure.
know, on the flip side, if you're broke, if you have no money, but you have the drive to do this, okay, we'll open up a SoundCloud. You're done. There's certain free distribution services, you know. So technically speaking, it's not that hard. Just Google how to open a label. But
Yeah.
the real work comes into like, okay, so who's gonna send you demos? Uh what are you going to do with those demos? How are you going to do right by your artist? What is your focus? Like, for example, we have, excuse me, we have a very specific focus. I have friends who have a different focus. You know, they're doing like songs with Jaden Smith and this and that, and that's a completely different game. But what I'm saying is kind of have, and part of it is organic, but have kind of an end game. In other words, where are you taking this? Where is this going? And why are you doing this? Okay. Are you doing this because you're trying to turn this into a job? Are you trying to make millions of dollars? Are you trying to create a party brand, a management company? Like, for example, you know, I have a buddy in LA who has an indie manager, and now he's working with an outfit that's a record label. They have a management company, a publishing company, and something else. So my point is like kind of know what you're doing, or are you just trying to like expose people to cool music, you know? So and then beyond that, you know, get yourself listed, start listening to music, maybe go to Submit Hub. There's a lot of interviews, Label Radar. I mean, I can point you to a lot of tools,
Yeah.
but the real question is why and how much time are you going to put into this? Because if you're not going to put in the time, I just don't see how it's going to work.
Oh, oh, you still there?
Yep, I'm here.
All right,
I'm
cool, cool.
here. I
It
am
froze
here.
on my end for a second. I thought the storm hit you again. Good deal. Yeah, no, that is an amazing answer. I love that. And again, like that was so very not forceful in the bad way, but like forceful in like you gotta really get with it. Like understand exactly what you're doing. Thank you so much for that answer, man.
Can you guys still see me or am
Yeah,
I?
we
Oh
can
yeah.
see you.
Oh
You're
great.
good. You're
All
good,
right.
man. You're good. You're good. Um, let's give our listeners a little bit of input on what's happening with you. Where are you at right now?
You guys, I am 2 hours from the U.S. Okay, I am in the beautiful normally beautiful Dominican Republic. The
Yeah.
storm. I'm like the weatherman. Okay, the storm is coming to Miami, but before it gets there, it's literally going over the Dominican, so power's going in and out, all sorts of things. But I will tell you on a completely different note, if you want to leave the U.S. but be close, and you're on the East Coast, I personally recommend the Caribbean. It's great. We're like
Right on.
sandwiched between Puerto Rico and Miami. It's great. So a lot of talent here musically as well in the Caribbean.
All right. So I got another question about instead of just me praising all your music and the people you're signing for here and there. How do you guys work with public relations agents and or how do you guys deal with networking agents or are you guys just doing it on your own? Do you guys let every artist deal with themselves once you get signed or are you guys actually helping them do their own thing?
Yeah, so a couple different ways. So we do have in-house PR and
Okay.
pitching and all that. So
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 actually, can I pause real quick? I'm
yeah.
so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know I asked a loaded question and then
No,
I
no,
cut
no.
you off right away. I'm very sorry about that. But there are some people I talk to. I'm trying to phrase this the right way to not piss anyone off that I know. But there are some people I hang out with and talk to, and their PR slash networking agencies or their booking agencies are all like one and done. And that's great. I think that's amazing if you can get in with them but some of them are very grooming. Some of them really want the artist to immediately be this way and that way, and that's something you hear about and you know about from like big corporate entities, but it's happening in like day to day, like just basic people industry, like management too. And
Yeah.
it freaks me out. Like some of the people I've interviewed, some of the people I've talked to, some of the people that I deal with when I'm producing I had to step away from, because like, no, your people are trying to put too much a grip on you. And from what I've researched from you guys, you're not really doing that, which is great. But tell me how you work with people who are either dealing with that, or how you function with that.
Look, I'll give you a very specific answer. So we were having some. I won't give any names, but we were having some conversations with folks who wanted to take the No Face brand and do some things with them, and they wanted us to change certain things about us, like to literally to the point where like they didn't like that my business partner colors his hair and has a beard, and they were like, no, you need to look like I kid you not. And so and so we like politely um uh wait, am I allowed to swear on this
You can
program? What are
swear all
we?
you want. You're this is your stage. Do whatever you want.
Look, we were like, fuck you, okay? We were like, look, I don't know what kind of shit this is. Maybe like a few years back, but like, we're so done with this puppet mastery cookie cutter
Yeah,
bullshit, okay?
yeah,
And I'm not saying, listen, we have artists on the label who look like they came out of like an Armani catalog or something, and they're from Paris and the whole
I've
thing.
seen a few of them, and that's one of
Yeah.
the things. Like every once in a while, I'll see one of your artists, and I'm like, what? This isn't the label I'm listening to. These guys are too
Yeah.
pretty. What's happening here?
Yeah, and you'll see people out of Paris, and they're very stylish and the whole thing.
Yeah,
It's like, look, we are now island guys. Like I'm here in the Caribbean, okay? Like we're talking about fruits and rum and this and Miami and I don't know. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna make you into these Europeans, and we're like, why don't we let the Europeans be the Europeans because they're really good at that, okay?
yeah, for sure,
And we'll let
exactly.
the Americans be the Americans, and we'll let us island guys be the island guys, and everybody can do their thing. And that's
Absolutely.
our attitude with the label. Like we sign worldwide, okay? We have like people from Japan. I was gonna say
Yeah.
kids, but that's not true because we have people in their 40s, teenagers,
Mm-hmm.
all of it. We have people from California, Peru, etc. So
Mm-hmm.
enforcing some sort, but to anybody going through this, look, it really depends. It really depends. I don't want to give you a specific answer because it depends on what you're doing. Like if somebody's offering you something amazing, but you have to compromise, it just depends on what you're trying to do. I'm just in a place at this point where I'm just very comfortable with what I'm doing, what the team is doing. And our team is eclectic. Like they're very different people and they have their own styles, and bless them, they're great. So, but that's the best answer I can give is if it works for you, great, do it and follow your little, machine. If not, do your thing. But I would just argue that the world is a big place.
Yeah.
There's over 7 billion people, close to 8 billion.
Yeah.
Even if all of them hate you, but a million of them love you, you'll do fine.
You're
So just
good.
think
Yeah,
about it
you're
that way.
good. Yeah, and for you saying like this is the only best answer you can give, guess what? It was the best answer definitely you could have given, because there was nothing wrong with it. Because you're
Thank
completely
you.
fucking right, man. You're absolutely right about all of that. And I got a list here in front of me of artists who are on your label, if not only for a single track or multiple tracks or an EP. I'm not even going to read them off. There's no point.
Mm,
All I got to say is anyone listening to this podcast right now, between me and Dennis, listen to his record label however you can. No
thank
Face
you, Will.
Records. Everything is right there. If you don't think what they have is of you or what you want to do, he and his team is massively more than welcome to hear what you got to do. Push it. Send it to him.
And then
All you got to
and
do is, I think it's a label something. Where's the easy spot for people to put demos to you?
demos at nofacerecords.com. That is it. We
Okay.
tried this. Maybe you saw we had this label uploader thing and then nobody
Yeah,
liked
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So now we're back to demos at nofacerecords.com.
Okay.
Email us. 2 weeks we'll get back to you, and that's that. And while you were
Cool.
asking about PR, we do PR in house. We could have worked with, and there's some good people who do PR in electronic music. we personally, we have a group of people. So we have a guy named Christopher from New York. Shout out to him. He's great. And then we have my fiance Denise, and between the two of them, they love it, we love it, everybody's happy. And then otherwise, we do have pitching. But I will tell you this, okay? So yes, we send it out to, we get people like Dash Berlin and Kreider and Dimitri Vegas and like Mike on the bigger end and all sorts of people and
Dimitri
playlists
Vegas?
and all that.
Dimitri Vegas?
Yeah,
What? What?
yeah, we
All
get
right, that's
support.
cool. That's cool.
We
Just
get
blew my
support.
mind again, man. What, man,
Listen,
another reason to love you.
we get support all around, and we have years of relationships. But bottom line is, what we tell our artists, and we give them guides on how to pitch and everything. We say, listen, and I don't know how other labels do it, but we say, listen, don't just rely on us, okay? We will do our thing, but when you go out to yourself and you go to, let's say, 1001 track list, and you find similar songs and see who's been supporting them, etc., and when you take the time and email people like Thomas Gold or Marcus Schultz or whoever,
Yeah,
whichever
yeah,
genre
yeah.
you're in, they appreciate that. They like that. Like, they, as much as they love hearing from us labels, they like hearing from you, the producer. And I know that there are people who are literally intimidated to hit them up, and you shouldn't, because they really want to hear from you.
For sure, man. Dude, Dennis, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. Thank you so much for allowing me to feel like I'm a part of a music scene that I try so hard to be a part of, production wise and or talking wise or just love wise. I've been doing this show for a few now, and with good reflections. And thank you so much for joining us. I know you've got some stuff going on over there, and we can't wait to hear more of your label. Also, I want to hear it's Max Vigiel. What's his name?
Max Vangeli.
Vangeli. See, okay, I
Yeah.
knew that, but I'm so
But
stupid.
some
I always
people say
Vangeli.
Vangeli, and that's fine
Vangeli.
too. He
Yeah, okay,
will
cool.
take it.
I want to talk to him so much. And then also, man, can I point out some of my favorite right now artists? And sadly enough, like right before we got on, I was seeing more that I really enjoyed. But Los Padres,
Yes.
Just My Lord, Foxtrot, Evil, Cyber, Tyraz, Nedcro, Arn Raleigh, Mudskull, Lucky Vegas, and My System. Bro,
Italians, yes.
seriously, you're bringing it so hardcore right now. Every single one of them are killing it in the best way of making everything happy. They're killing the evil and they're making everything happy right now. It's wonderful. I'm so happy about your label, dude.
Wally, I so appreciate the support, and on behalf of our artists, I just appreciate you giving them attention. And these people are doing some pretty groundbreaking things, and we're just
Mhm.
happy to support them.
I'm just upset that I couldn't say them all because there's so many more. And every single one of them I've listened to, there might be that one inkling moment where I'm like, nah, this might not be good. And then the track continues. And I'm like, oh, no, this is good. Everything. I've not heard a bad thing. And I know that you guys are hopefully going to open the door up even wider and let even more flow coming in and get it done, because you guys are really, like I said in the heading of this whole episode and in the text of this whole episode, you guys are breathing new life into the future, bringing the past back and letting people know what it used to be. All these kids,
Yes.
all these people who are just now getting into electronic music and like, oh yeah, this is good. They have no clue what they've missed out on, and you guys are freaking bringing it back, man.
And let me tell you something. So we were gonna do it this summer, but the corona decided to get in the way. We were approached by the powers that be in Ibiza, who wanted to do a no face night, okay, weekly night in Ibiza, and not on that bougie side of the island where your table costs more than your car,
Yeah.
but on the people side of the island, okay, where it's like 20 euro to get in. And we were going to do it. We were going to have a blast. We were going to bring our artists and, do parties for the people. And, but nevertheless, you know, it got in the way. So hopefully next summer, but we'll see. But regardless, we will be there. We will continue to be there and continue to elevate the next
Yes.
generation of electronic
Yes.
music artists.
Yes. And not just elevate and produce the next generation, but also letting that next generation understand how to be a one. Doesn't matter what you're
Yes.
producing, doesn't matter what your sound is. We're all doing this together. Why? Because we're all here in the same spot right now. Let's do that. Let's do that. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear from more from you, man. And with that said, everybody out there listening, thank you so much for tuning in. And as I always say, you can always join in every Monday and Thursday at 7 p.m. to hear us live. And if you can't catch us live, 2 days after each podcast that is live, you can catch us on every streaming platform right then and there. If your question didn't get answered on this stream and or you didn't ask, don't worry. Get onto the forum, www.theemporiumlive/forum.com. Ask a question there for whatever podcast of ours you've listened to, and we'll get back to you. If you got a question for Dennis right here about anything that we've talked about and or we didn't talk about, ask us. And I'll be the asshole who gets back to him and makes him answer me so I can answer you. That's the way it goes. And with all that said, we appreciate everyone. Tucker, thank you for producing this this show. And Dennis, again, thank you so much. I hope to speak to you again in the future. And I very much hope that you're okay with sending some of your artists our way and all that. You know what I mean?
100%. They'd love to have it, and I know you guys are going to have Los Padres on soon. So
Yes, I
appreciate
hope
that.
so. Yeah, speaking of that, I think they might have had to change their date with us, but hopefully they come back, because I'm really into them. They were the one artist out of everything I listened to that I was majorly focusing on. So I really want to get down with them. And I do have maybe 4 or 5 different artists that I want to compare them to while I'm talking to them and be like, how did you know my life?
Mm. Awesome.
All right. With that
So
said,
are we still streaming? Oh, okay.
No, we're still streaming, buddy. We're still
Okay.
streaming.
Hello, world.
Yeah, they're great. So Underworld actually is Los Padres reminds me of Underworld. You ever heard that group?
No, I haven't, but
Dude,
I will now.
Underworld, check them out and compare. They're very much they're the new style Underworld. I'll say that. That's what I'll say.
Underworld.
But all right, yeah, we're gonna cut out of here. Everybody have a good night. We'll talk to you all soon. All right, bye-bye.